Hi, Jake Williams from Rendition InfoSec here. Wanted to chime in on a story that I just caught my eye, actually, thanks to Chad Tilbury from the SANS Institute. Chad posted a link about IBM effectively banning all removable storage by employees. Now, this is actually a really interesting development. This actually was reported on May 10th. But again, somehow escaped my attention. But I saw him tweet that out, and it was kind of an interesting piece. Both Gizmodo as well as the Register report on this, and of course I'll link these in the articles and the YouTube videos. Interestingly enough, IBM has confirmed the ban globally, actually, for its 350,000 employees, saying that they preferred or the new preferred method of transferring files rather than removable storage would be basically a service called Sync and Share. It's unclear at this point, whether that's going to add additional security. Of course, we know historically that using cloud synchronization models has the potential to actually negatively impact security. Of course, we know that DLP, data loss prevention, as much as InfoSec professionals dislike DLP, turns out that DLP programs are reasonably robust. And definitely have better integration for removable storage than they do for cloud storage. Right? If you're not familiar with cloud storage, again, a lot of this results in synchronization based on some shared file. If you think about Dropbox or OneDrive, for instance, basically you have that set up as either a map drive or, in many cases, just a folder on your file system. Anything placed in that folder is automatically synchronized to the cloud. Again, DLP programs tend to be much better configured or much better suited for removable storage, although removable storage has its own set of issues. Of course, one of the things we are frequently hit with at Rendition or asked to comment on or help assist with are evaluations of data lost through a missing USB, and start trying to do some assessments around that. Now, Windows 10 has some additional logging around this. If you're not familiar with Windows 10, with the Windows 10 removable device logging, they've got a lot more of this built in. I don't know if Microsoft's trying to take over or kind of long-term making a play for the DLP market. I kind of doubt that. I think this is just missing functionality that finally got put in. But again, we have some increased functionality there that we never had previously, prior to Windows 10. Separately, another big issue that we run into is what devices specifically may be plugged in. Again, Windows 10, as you can imagine, does a better job of this as well without third-party software. But it's kind of interesting here to see a large organization like IBM, come out and say this. Now, since the story was published, Gizmodo reports that IBM has mentioned that there will be exceptions to this on a case-by-case basis. Originally, it was, no, we're globally blocking it. Of course, we all know this creates challenges, right? I don't think anybody out there says, hey, let me go use USB so I can go break stuff. Normally, it's a question of either bringing an unauthorized device into a network. Of course, we use this at Rendition for some of our red team assessments where we actually do USB drive drops, preferably in smoking areas or other public areas where employees will carry these into an environment. Of course, there's a lot of safeguards that go around that. Anything that we've got set up on those systems is custom tailored, so that we'll only execute within the domain that we expect it to be in. That prevents somebody from taking it home, putting a BYOD, or sorry, a private device, or taking it on their network and running running those tools there. But again, as we look at this, we know that that historically, folks bringing things into a network has been a problem. Separately, of course, there's the larger issue, I suspect, of bringing stuff out of the network. Right? If I had to choose am I worried about unauthorized USBs coming in, or am I worried about authorized USBs going out? It has to be the latter of the two. Those authorized USBs, again, can contain any amount of sensitive data. And of course, as we think about the CIA model, the CIA triad of security, confidentiality, integrity, and availability, I think we're pretty well clear in this case that for a research and development organization like IBM, and a lot of people wouldn't think of them necessarily as an R&D organization, but let's be clear, it's their intellectual property that keeps IBM afloat. Right? And so if somebody can steal that intellectual property effectively and bring that intellectual property into a competing product, of course, they can eke out an advantage over IBM. So of course that's a concern for IBM, and certainly was cited as one of the concerns for basically not allowing the removable devices anymore. But I really have to kind of step back and cite DoD in this case. After many events, DoD, DoD came out and said, "Hey, we're not doing this whole removable device thing anymore," and largely cracked down on USBs. And we've seen Inspector General reports since that have came out where USBs are still, I don't want to say running rampant. They've definitely the number of people authorized to use them, as well as probably the number of USBs in those DoD environments, has definitely been reduced, but I wouldn't say eliminated. Right? So I would say any organization with the size and complexity of IBM, particularly with the number of companies that they bring in through acquisition, I really have to wonder if this is an achievable policy at all. I'd really be interested to know what some others think about this. We've worked in smaller environments, definitely at 350,000 people. I mean, tops, maybe a couple thousand people, where they really have been able to eliminate USBs. But again, in those scenarios, those are some pretty well locked down, pretty tight organizations as far as workflow goes. IBM is a behemoth by comparison, and again, myriad numbers. In fact, I would argue that IBM probably has more different workflows in their environment than our clients who we helped with this USB problem have employees, right? So again, just to kind of put things in perspective, while we saw it successful in a couple of environments, again, they were the workflows were very, very well defined. I think it's an admirable goal that IBM's pushing on here, but I'm not sure how sustainable or even how achievable that goal is. I'd love to know what you think, whether you think IBM can completely remove USB devices, and if they can't, what's the next best thing, right? I know a lot of people like to go with the whole, hey, you should totally do, enforce some encryption, but one of the problems we run into there is, if I need to, let's say, build a boot USB or something along those lines, or bring it over to another system, an encrypted USB is awesome, but software encryption generally doesn't save the day there, right? Because I have to have the software on the device that I'm bringing it to. The software on the device I may be copying files from, probably a little bit easier than where I'm taking it to. One of the devices that we use a lot, at least at Rendition, is the Apricorn. Apricorn has a line of USB devices that are hardware encrypted with actually have a pin, basically a pin pad, both on the USB drive, the full-size USB hard drive, as well as the smaller USB stick. Now again, it's not a small USB stick by any comparisons, because it has actual punch pins on it so that you can actually punch in the code. But we like those because it's good solid hardware encryption, and if you punch in the code too many times, it'll ultimately erase the key. Right? So all around, that's a pretty nice device, and probably a good compromise. This is one that we've ended up implementing in a number of organizations where they need that good exception to policy. You're guaranteed in this case that any confidential files on that drive are encrypted, and again, unless somebody knows the passcode, again, there's no way for them to brute force it. If they try to brute force it, of course, after some number, I believe it's 10 by default on the Apricorn, again, it'll permanently erase the key, right? So with 10 wrong pin guesses. So again, as I look at this, again, I kind of wonder where's IBM in this whole piece. Are they going to be able to weather this, and are they going to get basically? Are they going to see this come to fruition? I kind of doubt it given their size, but I'd be interested to know. Please share in the comments here. What have you done in your own organizations that's worked? What have you tried that didn't work? If you got some more stories, kick them into the comments here. I'd love to get a discussion going. Or of course, you can follow us on Twitter or LinkedIn. Get the discussion going there. Anyway, appreciate your time. Jake Williams from Rendition InfoSec signing off.